What's up guys, Pypo bringing you today on Hunters, basically how to spec, how to gem, how to glyph, how to basically anything Hunter. The reason I'm doing is because it's currently the best spec in 5.4 for PvP. This is not a PvE guide. If it is a PvE guide, you'd have to go survival anyway, so there's no real reason for you to be trying to gauge what to do on PvE as far as this video is concerned. This is just PvP I'm going to start from basically gear, spec, all that kind of stuff. Then we'll get into actual rotations and how to play the actual class and the spec So we'll start with the gear preference and how to get your stat kind of stack going on. So what you want to do is just basically, obviously, number one is make sure you're hit capped and make sure your expertise capped. That's pretty simple to do. Usually on your base gear that you have, you're going to be hit and expertise capped. You're going to be over hit and expertise capped, in fact, and you're going to have to do some reforging. As far as reforging is concerned, you want to make everything you possibly can into crit. If you have anything extra, make it crit for That's what you want to do. You want to stack crit as much as possible. If you cannot turn it into crit, then you're looking at haste or mastery. As long as you're not too far over hit cap, not too far over expertise cap, it's not too important to get it down as much as possible, just as long as you're above it. As long as you're above it, you don't want to be in there missing scatter shots or missing a silent shot or something like that. If that happens, it's going to be a game fucking loser. You're going to lose a game simply because you weren't hit capped. Other than that, it's just crit stack all the way. Don't worry too much about little semantics and stuff like that. Just make sure you got your stuff. Like I got my extra expertise in my helm, reforged into crit. Just little things like that. Just little things like that. Now, that's basically all you need to know for gear. I'm a human, obviously, so I don't need to choose which trinket to pick. But if you're not a human, what you're going to want to do is get the one that actually requires you to use it. Because the use one you can then put in your PvP DPS burst macro. Which is is just simply your trinket and then your haste increaser ability. So, on to spec. Now, spec, a lot of people choose different stuff and it depends who you're playing with. I choose Narrow Escape for Arena. Now, BGs. Let's talk BGs. All you need to do is consider your playstyle. If you're in BGs and you need to get away from someone, or if you're always in the thick of it, you're gonna want to need to choose between Post Haste and Narrow Escape. Crouching Tiger or Hidden Chimera is good, but it's not really viable this patch. I mean, obviously it's fantastic, and you can disengage more often, but these two get you more out of your disengage, so they're both, in my opinion, better. Narrow Escape, Arena, definitely, especially if you're playing with, say, another melee class, or you're trying to peel off your healer. You're not going to be using Narrow Escape on your disengage just to get people locked down away from you. You use it in such a way that you're using it to lock down people to get them away from your teammates, or to lock down a person that you're bursting so your melee DPS on your team can catch up to them and stay on them. You're using it as a snare for more than just you staying away from someone. So for that reason, it's best for Arena. But if you're just having fun playing some BGs, or maybe you're just running some dungeons, definitely pick up Post Haste. All you have to do with that is obviously when you're running around, do a quick turn, disengage, and then you've moved forward, you have a sprint, and it's super simple to do. That's something you will need to... It's not that 100% necessary for arenas, but as far as battlegrounds and stuff like that are concerned, just practice your run, turn, disengage, and then switch back around. If you're not using your mouse to turn, you're doing it wrong. I mean, it's as simple as that. Use your mouse to turn, make sure you're good at your disengages, and which way you're turning. Again, for Arena, not that big of a deal, but it can come down to that in some BGs. Now, next, what to get here. Again, this is different for Arena, different for BGs. BGs, I'd say Binding Shot, because in BGs, if you put a Riven Sting on someone, it's just going to get broken by someone else on your team, because you're not communicating, you're not into CC, everyone's just smashing face. So definitely pick up Binding Shot for BGs. For Arena, however, you're definitely 100% going to get Riven Sting. This is crucial for your CC rotation, and it keeps someone locked down. You need to get Riven Sting. Now, the way this works, I'll go into this immediately. This is on DR with your trap. DR means diminishing returns. What this means is if you trap someone and then sleep shot them, the sleep shot is going to last less time than if you hadn't have trapped them beforehand. So what you're going to want to do is, and the better you get at this, the better you'll be able to CC chain, is have yourself do a scatter trap or a Riven Sting first, then have your partner CC them. Once they CC them, then you get the next CC, and that way, there's been enough time in between to get your trap or your Riven Sting on them, and it's not DR. That way the person is sitting in a longer CC chain. Obviously, sometimes it's not very useful, sometimes it's not doable, sometimes your partner isn't very good at CCing or just cannot do it in general, and you're going to have to train these, but it's still better than having that blinding shot. I guarantee you that. Intimidation. It's good, again, especially if you're BM, but we're not talking BM, we're talking MM. Intimidation, I wouldn't take for MM. I wouldn't even consider it. Next one. This one gets a lot of controversy between Aspect of the Iron Hawk and Spirit Bond. A lot of people don't know why you would take Aspect of the Iron Hawk, but it's pretty simple. Iron Hawk is for healer, Spirit Bond is for no healer. Simple as that. If you're running with a healer, you're going to want to pick up Iron Hawk. If you have Spirit Bond and you have a healer with you, basically what you're saying is you don't trust your healer. That's all that is. You shouldn't need Spirit Bond if you have a healer. And that way you can pick up the Iron Hawk, take less damage, take less huge crits, and be able to survive bursts a lot easier. Whereas this is just going to keep you alive in certain situations where you can kite very well. As in BGs, as in without a healer. So for BGs, I always take Spirit Bond. If I'm doing arena with a healer, I'm going to take Aspect of the Iron Hawk. Exhilaration has not been very good since they took out readiness. It's just as simple as that. It's not that great. Alright, level 60 talents here. Thrill of the Hunt. Definitely what you want to take. Reason being, Arcane Shot is always what I'm going to be using with Thrill of the Hunt. If you're using Arcane Shot, and I'll get into this later, without Thrill of the Hunt up, you're pretty much doing it wrong. The only reason you should ever do that is if they say, if you have full focus. If you have full focus and you have nothing else you could possibly do, that's the only time you should Arcane Shot. Other than that, you need to do it with Thrill of the Hunt up. Alright, next up. Murder of Crows, Blind Strike, Blink Strike, and Link's Rush. Completely disregard Link's Rush. It hasn't been good for a few patches. Blink Strike. I'll get into it, but at first, let's talk about Murder of Crows. Murder of Crows, very good. It costs too much focus. This is the main downfall. You only have 100 focus on a hunter, and this is 60 fucking focus. It costs so much. Now, this is good for a long fight. Say you run in, you apply this immediately, and then you start spamming your stadies to get your focus up. It can work. It is very good, and it goes through things like Bop. It goes through things like deterrence on another hunter. So, if you're playing with a healer, I say, yeah, it can be good. But, Blink Strike, the reason this is good is because you're going to be making the most out of your pet's ability. I want to get into this later again with pets. What you're going to want to do is use a bird for disarm. Now, if my bird's next to me and he cannot get to the target that I want to disarm, this could cost my healer their life. Sometimes you need that disarm immediately to keep your healer alive or to keep your even other DPS alive. Blink Strike will get them there, onto that target, and onto that disarm. That's the reason I use it, and the reason a lot of people use it. Also, it's decent damage. Your pet's basic attack deals 50% increased damage. I mean, it's not huge. It's obviously not going to do as much as Murder of Crows, but it's a toss-up. It's basically CC plus or more damage. That's what you have to go through, but you got to keep in mind that focus cost, and the reason I don't use it, it'll actually fuck my rotation if it start off with, which again, I'll get into later. Final talents. Now, Power Shot. Very fun to use. I use it in BGs all the time just to have some fun. But if I'm ever playing serious, it's always got to be Glyph Toss. You get that Glyph Toss instant cast, 15 focus, very cost efficient, and it is a slow to boot. Very good. It's just an all-around good spell, and it hits hard as well. It's really good. Obviously, it doesn't hit as hard as a Chim because nothing does, but it's a good spell to use. So that's how you should spec. If you're going to do arena, this is it. This is it right here. Arena with a DPS. If I was going to do arena with a healer, I would switch Spirit Bond out for Aspect of the Iron Hawk. I usually run with the DPS, so I just have it set up like this, just to keep it real. And that's your spec. That's pretty much all you have to do. Spec, talents, crit. Alright, let's get on to your rotation and over these dummies. And now for rotation, there's a few things you have to keep in mind. Now, first things first. If you cast 2 steady shots back to back, so 1 steady shot and 2 steady shots, you get a buff right here. Steady focus. Range attack speed increased by 15%. Steady shot focus generation increased by 3 points. Now, the reason this is important is to have this buff up at last 15 seconds. Have it up before you burst. It's not important to necessarily run in and be like, I'm just going to steady shot, because then all you're doing is steady shotting at full focus. It's not important to do that. So I just wanted to point this out, keep this in mind, to get this and do it before you burst. So that's what is important. Do it before you burst. As simple as that. It's not that big of a deal. Next thing's next. Talk about aim shot. Now, a lot of people I hear talking about MM, they say, I don't want to play MM because I have to cast. The only time you're casting in MM and you have to stand still is aim shot. The only time you're going to be using aim shot is fucking never unless you're playing with certain classes. You should never be casting aim shot unless you're playing with certain classes. The reason this is, aim shot, you have to stand still like a fucking retard. There's no point in getting the glyph for it because it's just not necessary and it takes up a glyph spot that you cannot afford to give away. So it's just pointless. You do not want to do it. Now, when should you cast aim shot? Alright, when you're playing with a team and you're stealthing in. So you're going to have to get the glyph, obviously, that lets you stealth, or be playing with a rogue, and then your opener will be a cast aim shot. The reason you might want to do this is because on targets above, I think it's 70% health, it has like an 80%, I know, 70% crit chance. So it's very, very high to crit. Me personally, I have super bad fucking luck. It never crits for me because I'm a cunt. But at the same time, it is a very good opener to do because a fucking crit for one of these motherfuckers is going to hit them for 120k sometimes. It's going to hit hard. 200k on the dummy. It's going to hit fucking hard. So it's a good opener, but I wouldn't rely on it. And especially with the combos I run with healers, it's not optimum to start with it. So what would you start with, you might say? Alright, so a lot of people I see running in, they're Serpent Stinging immediately. Serpent Sting is not a priority in PvP. If you can get it up, if you have the focus, yes, apply it, but do not do it immediately. If you do it immediately, all you're doing is wasting 15 focus for no fucking reason. This is the rotation. I run in. If I know I'm not going to burst straight away, for instance, they have a healer, I will apply Serpent Sting first. Just because I can spare the 15 focus, I know I'm going to be fine. If it's a DPS, I'm not going to do this. I'll follow that up with a chim shot and then a glaive toss immediately. Now these two, I will then immediately start using on cooldown. On cooldown, on cooldown. You got to keep training these two on cooldown. Now, so that's pretty much the only two things you have to really focus on as far as huge damage. These two. Now, if you're at full focus, chuck in a few aim shots. Do not spam aim shot. For fuck's sake, do not spam aim shot. If you're sitting there spamming aim shot like this, going herp derp, he's almost dead, he's almost dead, he's almost dead, and then you need to actually cast something later on, like right now. I'm just spamming aim shot. I had nothing for my fucking glaive toss. Do not do this. This is a mistake. You do not want to do it at all in any circumstances. When you have Thrill the Hunt procced, you still don't want to do it if you're on super, super low focus. I'd say half focus and up. Do it. If you're at about 30 focus with Thrill the Hunt, do it. But again, everything else takes priority. So chim shot, glaive toss takes priority. And then there's other things that take into consideration. For instance, tranquilizing shot. Just a heads up, you can trank a lot of stuff people don't realize, like bop off a paladin. I don't know how many hunters I've talked to that haven't realized they can trank shot a bopped off a paladin. So if a paladin bops someone else, bops himself, you can trank shot it, get right through it. Keep that in mind. So, and this thing costs 20 focus. So it's not nothing, you know, it's a decent chunk. So keep that in mind when you're doing this. This guy has logs right in front of me. Alright, so trank shot, keep that in mind. Another thing, when versing anyone, I just do this when I'm versing anyone because pretty much every single class has a healing ability. Apply Widow's Venom. I will in fact do this as my opener a lot of the times. I'll just run in, I'll see the target, Widow's Venom. It's up for fucking 30 seconds. I don't think it's that long on a PvP target though, is it? It might be 30 seconds on a PvP target as well. For some reason I feel like it was shorter. Apply Widow's Venom, it's up. You don't have to worry about it for a bit. Then get into your rotation. Spam like this. I got, throw the hunt up, spam, and then once I'm at this point, I've already done a bit of damage. Then I'd get my 2 steady shots up. Once you have your 2 steady shots up, so you have your haste buff, it's time to burst. What you're going to do is use your macro. Now you should just have a simple macro, a very simple macro, which is just rapid fire and your trinket, whatever it is. I don't have my Grievous trinket yet. So trinket plus rapid fire. That's all it is. So you go in. So let's start again. I'll show you guys how to do it. Pull my bird back. He gets a bit excited sometimes. So, as I said before, Widow's Venom, Chim, Glaive Toss, apply my two motherfuckers like this, and then burst. Just like so. Just like so. And make sure you get a few steady shots in there. Proc an aim shot like so. You do not want to be casting aim shot at all. And as you see with rapid fire as an MM hunter, it makes your focus go up a lot faster. So you can afford to put in some extra aim shots. While you're doing this, make sure you don't overdo it, and make sure you pay attention to when that what is called rapid fire. Make sure you pay attention when that rapid fire falls off, and that's all it is. That's all it is. Obviously, you use your Stampede, but I keep my Stampede off the same cooldown. The reason I do this is because a lot of times you're versing a Paladin with a bubble. You have to go him first, so you need to go to DPS. Sometimes you can't get the bubble down, so you want to split your burst. You want to split these two things so that you go in, you burst them to begin with, you put a silent shot on them, they have to bubble. Very good. After the bubble's down, then you do the same thing again, except without rapid fire. You use Stampede, you put a silent shot on them, you put them down. When do you silent shot? Now, the more you play an MM Hunter, you're going to get the feeling for silent shot. You're going to get the feeling when you need to do it, and what classes and when to do it on what classes. For instance, monks, you can silent shot when they're low and they're going to die. But if you watch a monk and they have hots up on them or they've bowled themselves, if you silent shot them, they're not going to die. You have to watch for these things. Also, you're going to have to make sure to learn what to silence a DPS. Mainly, if you're silencing a CC, you're pretty much going to be okay. It's not too bad. Or if you're versing, say, a Warlock and they're casting Chaos Bolt, silencing a Chaos Bolt, again, not too bad. But you got to be mindful of who you're versing and make sure you have the strategy down before you go in. If you go in and you don't have no idea what you're doing, you're going to fail. It's as simple as that. The only way you're going to learn what to do is by watching videos and playing the games. That's it. That's it. I didn't get half decent by just watching videos. I had to go in, I had to lose a fuckload of games, I had to play with the same partner like through 100 losses until we worked out strategies to beat the other teams. That's just the way it is. Now, so that's the DPS rotation. I'll just go over it one more time. So, Widow's Venom, do your 2 main abilities, get them on cooldown, cast your 2 steady shots. Once you've cast your 2 steady shots, burst. That's all it is. That's the opener, and then you just burst. If you're not going to burst, obviously hold back, continue using your stuff off cooldown, continue using your steady shot. If you're wanting to do crazy hectic burst, you can always say steady shot until you have an aim shot proc, but I would not rely on it. Because 7 out of 10 times, I'm sitting there, I've done like 7 steady shots, I do not have an aim shot proc. I don't know why it happens. I think honestly they need to up it, but I don't think it's a priority for Blizzard. It's just the way it is. I would not rely on getting an aim shot proc. So that's your DPS rotation. Now, what to Glyph? Now, this is very, very wildly changed for what you're speccing, who you're playing with. As of right now, I was BGing earlier, so I have obviously Solace on. This is basically any spec, anything you're doing, you should have this Glyph. This is cookie cutter, every single spec, every single playstyle, every fucking everything, have a Glyph of Solace. That's just what you do. Have it in your fucking Glyph slot. Your first one, keep it there, never leave it alone. It's in that slot, it's staying there. Because this thing saves you games. It is super important. Because, especially if you're like me, I carry a lot of people. When I'm carrying, this thing saves me games. Next, I use Animal Bond. This is not necessary in any way. I just use it because when I'm out and about in BGs, I definitely need it. Something like Deterrence is definitely trade-outable for this. Because, say, you're versing an Affliction Warlock puts dots on you, you need a Deterrence. That's going to stop the actual damage of those dots while you have the Deterrence up, give your healer time to heal. But you got to remember what this Glyph is, it increases all healing done. So it's up to you. Is the healer you're with good? Is he going to be healing you a lot? Keep the Animal Bond. If not, go the Deterrence route. And then obviously we come to my fun part right here, Glyph of the Explosive Trap. Now a lot of people overlook this for Arena. The reason they overlook this for Arena is they think, knockbacks, this is fucking not that good. Some Arena maps, this is fucking amazing. I've won so many games with Explosive Trap. I go in, I put an Explosive Trap down, I knock them both 2 separate directions, I move over, and it's almost like that knockback is an extra CC because the other person has to catch up to with their DPS or the healer to try and peel or to save their fucking life. Other than that, Glyphs you can use, up to you mainly. I also have used No Escape for fun. This is a new Glyph in this patch 5.4, so it's I've been experimenting with it, but I haven't really found a good use for it yet, except in duels. If you're going to duels, I'd pick up Glyph of No Escape. Basically, if you don't know what this does, is when you have someone frozen, the next spell you cast on them is a 100% crit chance. This goes very well with Power Shot, by the way. So what you want to do in a duel, Scatter Trap, get some distance, Power Shot. That Power Shot is definitely going to crit. It's going to knock them back, gets you a decent amount of range. If you're 1v1ing, I'd do that, but I hardly ever spec for 1v1. Next thing's up, Mirrored Blades. I used to play with this Glyph a lot, but the problem is it gets double resilience. So basically they cast the spell. When it gets reflected, the spell that hits your shield is then lowered by resilience, and then when it reflects back and hits them, it's lowered by their resilience. So say if someone casts 100k Chaos Bolt at you, which is going to be a lot more than that, but just say it's 100k. Hits you, it goes down by 20k. Hits them, it goes down by 20k. All of a sudden, you know, it's hitting them for 60k. It's not that big of a deal. So it's not. It's just, yeah, it's not that good. The only time I've ever used that to like an actual advantage would be someone casting CC on me. You know, mage, sheeps themselves, druid cyclones themselves, that sort of thing. Other things you can use, Master's Call. It's not really necessary because you shouldn't be using Master's Call as like a, I want to be able to run for this duration. You want to use it as like a breaker. You want to break the CC rather than just be immune to it. And that's about it. I wouldn't probably use anything else. Anything like this, like Chim Shot, increases the healing done. It's not necessary. You don't need it. And obviously camouflage, like I was speaking about before. If you're gonna do one of those aim shot openers, use camouflage to be that be stealth for that opener. You can cast aim shot in stealth. You can pop this, and while you're casting it, remain in stealth. So it's a very good opener. But again, it depends what 2v2 you're playing with. This is all my opinion. It is through a lot of experience that I'm giving this opinion. But again, go out, play these games, take some of this advice, take some of these tips, and then mold it into your own play style. That's the only way you'll be good. Hope this video helps, guys. Have a good day. Have a good life. Have a good year. I'll give you a /wave. And I will see you in the next video. See you later, guys.